So our speaker this morning is Jacquie Hochstin, and Jacquie was born and brought up in Massachusetts and is a mother of 3 grown children and a teenage grandson. She moved to Jacksonville in July of 2022 to continue her work in a professional career in chaplaincy. She graduated from Chicago Theological Seminary in May of 2022 and received her Master's of Divinity. Her previous careers include nursing and child life. She has recently become a member of UUCJ and currently serves on the board, and she welcomes the chance to serve UUCJ in the capacity of community ministry, supporting the pastoral needs of the congregation, as well as serving in the pulpit. So welcome, Jacquie.
I think our chalice went out. I opened my sermon this morning with the words from Rainer Maria Rilke. To be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue. Do not seek the answers which cannot be given you, because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. But take whatever comes with great trust. And if only it comes out of your own will, out of some need of your innermost being, take it upon yourself and hate nothing. Almost everything serious is difficult, and everything is serious. This place of not knowing, we all know it, and what comes with it. These words from the German poet Rilke entered into my life when my world was filled with questions that had no answers. I found my way to them at a time when I was considering leaving a long-term marriage, when I was called upon to take permanent guardianship of my grandson, and when I was experiencing the struggles of my son's addiction, and when I was about to enter seminary. The idea of living into questions began to weave itself through my life as I considered moving in the world from this perspective. The practice of loving, holding, and living the questions. The mighty form of words a question is, and the communal implications of staying with and not knowing when to rush to an answer. This became a new way for me to move in the world. I could not find the answers, and being with what was the truth of my life allowed me to honor the gravity that was before me. Living into the questions became a way of thinking, a way of being for me. I have found direction and grounding in this practice in my ministry of chaplaincy, which allows me to enter into a place of great learning for both me and my patients, and a way of being with the truth of what is, allowing for a compassionate and life-giving presence in the midst of questions. We live now in what is referred to as the post-2020 world, in a culture that undervalues the power of words and is in love with the form of words as an answer and a way of words as an argument. The challenges before us, political, racial, economic, on some level, are asking for vast, aching, open questions with anything that might look like answers not happening soon. Just as in Rilke's world, the 1900s, our world today is filled with spectacular and devastating potential for creating and destroying. So how do we live into the questions and become sensitive observers in a harsh world? And how do we develop this as a practice to help change the world? We begin by responding to the call to honor and live the questions and understand more deeply the gravity and power of them. It is an invitation to an approach with reverence and curiosity, the questions we ask one another. Questions in our personal lives, communal lives, and in the greater world, especially now, with challenges to care for the earth, our democracy challenges at home and around the globe. Answers to questions rise and fall to the questions they meet. We all have seen this. Questions elicit answers in their likeness. There can be no way to respond to a combative question than with a combative answer. It is impossible to transcend a simple question without a simple answer. We are invited to ask generous questions, ones that invite searching, dignity, and revelation. It is redemptive and life-giving to ask generous questions. We can be shaped by the quality of questions as well as by their answers. Generous questioning moves us from our fluency in capitalist, blunt questions such as what, how soon, and how much, to questions of moral imagination. Why? To what human effect? How much is enough? It is an elemental truth that words matter. This is so plain that we can ignore it 1,000 times a day. The words we use shape how we understand ourselves, how we interpret the world, and how we treat others. Listening is about being present, not just about being quiet. As we think about this way of being and seeing the world, let us reflect on how living the questions has been exemplified in the work of UUCJ. The questions you are asking yourselves in this time of transition are generous questions, questions with moral imagination. We have seen this questioning in the ongoing work of the task forces set up to address safety, easy accessibility, governance, and the concerns with Article 2 and the UUA, and around creating a church structure for yourselves that will serve this congregation effectively and communally. You have asked questions around this work with a compassionate presence and a commitment to making a difference in the world and in your community. You have asked questions with moral imagination and with dignity, reverence, and curiosity. Asking such questions as, are we human beings who are in community? Do we call to each other? Do we heed each other? Do we want to know each other? I offer an invitation this morning to continue this way of being, living into the questions. Engage in the adventure. We have a world to remake. Here is the invitation. Formulate a question. Make this a practical life exercise. Write it down. Hone it. Commit to it. Keep the question for a year, a month, or however long it speaks to you. Make the question intimate, personal, civilizational, and see what it invites you to see and move toward and away from. As I ask my generous question, how do I move this last phase of my life making a difference in the world I live in? I find my way into the answer of doing the ministry of chaplaincy. I have now been given a gift, the ease of movement, and it's now time for me to give back to the world and put forward my commitment to making the world a better place by doing the work of chaplaincy, providing a non-anxious presence and walking alongside those I am called to serve. I have found, as I move through this generous asking, that if you are faithful to living a question, it will be faithful to you. Blessed be, and amen.
Thank you, Jackie. It's an inspirational sermon. I appreciate it. So in addition to Jackie and appreciation for her, we offer gratitude this morning to the others who helped make this service possible. Our hymn leader, Hope Clayton, musicians, special musicians, of course, Sharon Scholl and Jeannie Hebner, and to Jeannie for being our hymn player this morning. Trumpeter Rod McKinnon, greeters and ushers Nicole Evans and Janine Leland, child care volunteers Kai Whitaker and Martha Aiken, coffee and conversation volunteers downstairs, Constance Miller with Marcia Collins and Kara Gwalthney helping with cleanup, our tech director, of course, Crystal Vakes, and special gratitude to the nonprofit $1,000 startup in Fernandina Beach for hosting our members and friends meeting in that community. The contributors to our liturgy this morning, Jacquie Hochstin wrote the words for the opening and closing words. The chalice lighting is from Rebecca Ann Parker and John Burens. Wisdom of All Ages, For All Ages, is written by and illustrated by John Muth, M-U-T-H. It was based on a story by Leo Tolstoy. Meditation from Jan Richardson and Jack Cornfield. The reading was from Krista Tippett and Pema Chodron. And our affirmation is from a gentleman named L. Griswold Williams. So,
I will leave you again this morning with the words of Rainer Maria Rilke. To be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books that are written in a very foreign tongue. Do not seek the answers, which cannot be given you because you would not be able to live them. And the point is to live everything. Live the questions now. Perhaps you will then gradually, without noticing it, live along some distant day into the answer. But take whatever comes with great trust. And if only it comes out of your own will, out of some need of your inmost being, take it upon yourself and hate nothing. Almost everything is serious, is difficult, and everything is serious. Amen. Blessed be.